So here's an interesting question for you. As a leader, as a manager, or even as a supervisor, when was the last time you asked your direct reports for feedback on how your communications or your actions are affecting them? Interesting question, right? When was the last time you asked for feedback on how you lead is impactful, either positive or negatively? Now, hopefully you're looking for positive results, correct? But we also want to know if there's some challenges there as well. Now, interestingly enough, in the Kouzes and Posner's Leadership Practices Inventory 360, which is an assessment tool that leaders can do to assess their effectiveness as a leader, that's one of the questions. And what the question actually is, I'm going to read it for you, is ask for feedback on how his/her actions affect other people's performance. How often or how frequently do you as a leader ask for feedback on how your actions affect other people's performances? Now, in their book, The Leadership Challenge, Kouzes and Posner are talking about how effective we are as leaders and gives us some ideas and some tools on improving our effectiveness. In fact, their book says how to make extraordinary things happen in organizations. And as we've been talking about over the last few weeks, the first practice is modeling the way. And if you recall, I said in modeling the way, there are 6 behaviors, and this is one of the behaviors. And guess what? In the 360 assessment, it is almost always the one that ranks lowest. And I will put up my hand because that's what happened with me too. It was ranked the lowest in the frequency. Now, it's not to say that you don't do this, but it's how often you do it. And that's one of the things that they measure in the 360 is the frequency at which leaders do certain things. To all the time, to hardly ever, right? And so it's asking for feedback. So how might you do that? Where do you find opportunities to do that? Well, one of the things that I do, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I might say, so what's your takeaway from that? Or what's one thing you're taking away from this conversation? Or I'm curious what your thinking is about X, Y, Z. Oh, I'm just curious about whether I explained that. Or if something happens in, if an incident or something happens and I've had to have a conversation with somebody, maybe going back and saying, I just want to check in with you about that conversation we just had. Checking in, seeing how they're doing, asking for feedback to find out what effect we're having. And if you're having, an open, honest conversation with somebody, often, let's say, maybe performance review times, if you have those in your organization, is to let them know that you are interested in knowing what their feedback is. So if you're doing a performance review, I think it's fair to ask them. So just, I'm curious about how you feel about some of the things that I'm doing as a leader. Are there some things that you think that I maybe should keep doing? And are there some things that I should stop doing? Interesting. Think about that. Take some time over this week. Think about a conversation that you've had. Can you go back to that person and talk to them? Interesting. Not easy to do. And for some people, it's just having to move that ego aside. So let me know. I'm curious. What do you think? Have you experienced that? Maybe you experienced that as a direct report, your boss talking to you that way. Or maybe you got an experience of when you had a conversation with one of your direct reports. I'd be curious. So just send me a message after this blog post and let me know. Anyway, that's it for this week. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Thank you and stay safe.